We are very lucky to have here today a fine gentleman from the Workers of England Union who would like to say a few words about his organisation's mission to represent our people who have had their employment threatened by things like hate speech laws, that sort of thing. And this is a very important issue for all of us, and one that can't be ignored going forward. So please lend him your ears. It's Neil. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and thank you to Mark for inviting me here to speak to you wonderful people today. So I'm an officer of the Workers of England Union. It's a generic union. We cover every occupation, and it's independent in two ways. Firstly, we don't have shop stewards in the workplace, and it's a fallacy that you need to have shop stewards in the workplace. In many ways, it's a disadvantage because, of course, shop stewards are working under the same managers as you, and, of course, they have tea and biscuits in the joint consultation meeting with the bosses. But secondly, it's not politically aligned. Members of any of the large unions are, whether they know it or not, funding refugees' welcome and trans protests, and Labour Party officers helping Kamala Harris with her campaign. Our reps are committed to freedom of speech. And there's more and more cases of cancel culture, particularly since COVID-19. There's been a clear authoritarian turn in employment relations. There's a progressive establishment which has inverted individualism and collectivism. So they focus on the greater good through equality, diversity, and inclusivity. And they're against the traditional collectives of faith, flag and family, which are now individualized to the personal domain. Being a Christian must be kept private. Conservative opinion best kept out of the workplace. By contrast, sexual orientation, which is surely an individual concern, is collectivized with forced compliance to subversive identity politics. Now, there is no privacy for social media users. I'm representing a woman who reposted feisty messages on her Facebook group for friends and family following the Southport murders. Gross misconduct. Another member was dismissed for remarking on Albanian drug gangs entering the country illegally to a colleague at a pub. The person who reported him was taking the side of criminals, yet the company saw our member as harming its reputation. You could be sacked just for being here today. From a management perspective, nothing is worse than wrongthink. It implies a reactionary or hateful attitude. It is counter-revolutionary because whether people realise it or not, we are amidst a cultural revolution. It is as shrill, puritanical and irrational as that unleashed by Mao in China in the 1960s. So if you get caught in a spider's web, you should stay calm, confide carefully, continue as if nothing has changed. If you're suspended, you could be off sick. I don't recommend going to a solicitor who cannot participate in disciplinary proceedings. You'll need a trade union rep. In the Workers of England, we have access to legal advice through our legal director, Robin Tilbrook. Members often seek help after they've attended an investigation meeting, and that's too late. They've already admitted the allegation, and they've said a lot more to incriminate themselves. An investigation meeting, and it's not always called that, it's often called just a friendly chat, but a friendly chat it isn't. If summoned to a meeting with your manager and you find someone from HR in the room, what do? You walk out. There is no legal right to a union rep in an investigation meeting, but it's good practice for employers to allow it. And what we say is, no rep, no meeting. So then comes the hearing, and here is where you should really follow your rep's advice. political cases, which are becoming more and more common, what I now do is I get the member to submit relevant articles showing that members' views are legitimate expression in matters of public interest. And I check at the hearing that the panel has read them. Breaches of social media policy are becoming a common way of disciplining staff. But at the hearing, I ask, are your criteria objective or subjective? And they have difficulty answering that. But of course, they're assessing what the member has said through an ideological lens. Staff were not being disciplined for promoting Black Lives Matter or racist notions of white privilege. And there is privilege in the room, in the managers and HR, middle-class values and their luxury beliefs. It's some consolation for members who end up getting sacked. It's a discomfort that we reps cause to the patronising panellists. I'd recently faced 4 senior managers, HR people in an NHS trust, and it was a gruelling session, and the member was pleased to see that all of those managers left the room looking mentally and physically exhausted. But I don't provoke unnecessarily. Sometimes, if it's a lost cause, I'll request a without prejudice meeting to try and extricate the member without dismissal on their record. If the person is dismissed, they should certainly appeal, while also engaging the ACAS Early Conciliation Service. Now, they should do that before their appeal hearing, because that way the employer knows that they're going to ACAS and knows that this could end up in an employment tribunal. And sometimes we do get people reinstated. We use the Equality Act to fight employers. Philosophical belief has as much protection as religion, but the member must be able to present this lucidly. It doesn't need big words. The Workers of England will help prepare such a defence. So workers are being punished for opposing woke ideology, and soon we'll be defending so-called climate deniers too. Here again is potential for a philosophical belief argument. And I'll end with a shameless plug for my book, and this is the most forthright debunker of the climate scam and the sinister agenda behind it. And it's the only book, I can be quite sure of this, the only book on climate that links net zero to Richard Kudinov-Kalergi. There's a few copies left in the lobby, and if you haven't already, join the Workers of England Union. Thank you.